Hello everybody and welcome back to another EDH gameplay video brought to you by Affinity for Commander. My name is Martin and today we have another gameplay video featuring two of our amazing patrons, DP and Brando. Both Alex and I had a lot of fun playing with these two gentlemen and we can't wait to play more games with them in the future. Speaking of patrons, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the rest of our patron donors, without whom we would be unable to make weekly content for all of you lovely viewers, so thank you. As always, if you decide to purchase your Magic or any other card game products from any of the websites listed on screen, then be sure to use our affiliate links in the description below. It won't cost you a penny extra, but it really helps out the channel. And if you're buying from Flipside Gaming, then be sure to use the promo code Affinity at checkout for 10% off orders over $10. And finally, the eagle-eyed amongst you may notice the version of Kathril that I played during this game looks a little different from the normal version. This is because I'm using a special sleeve supplied by our latest sponsor, altersleeves.com. Alter sleeves are quickly becoming one of my latest addictions, as they allow you to change the artwork on any card for a fraction of the price of normal alters. Be sure to check out our affiliate link for Alter Sleeves in the description below, and be sure to use us as a referral if you make any purchases. But I've been waffling on for long enough, let's take a look at those opening hands.
I am playing my Nevinyrral Urborg Tyrant deck, which aims to win with a mixture of aristocrat effects and powerful planeswalkers. The deck also runs a healthy amount of control and removal cards, ensuring that my plans are not easily interrupted. I keep a starting hand containing Azorius Signet, Keeper of the Accord, Tivash Sizat, Doom of Fools, Choked Estuary, a Plains, an Island, and a Swamp.
I am playing my Kathril Aspect Warper deck, with my main strategy being to get creatures with multiple keywords into my graveyard as fast as possible. This will make Kathril a real threat when I decide to cast him, and also allows me to benefit from the many reanimation spells that I run. I mulligan twice, eventually keeping an opening hand containing Arcane Signet, Death Sprout, Jared's Orders, Lyra Dawnbreaker, Exotic Orchard, and Grim Backwater.
DP is playing his Thassa God of the Sea deck, which contains a large amount of unblockable creatures. He aims to power up these slippery critters with an arsenal of equipment while protecting himself with a decent amount of control spells. DP's starting hand contains Mist-Cloaked Herald, Spell Snare, Aether Figment, Essence Capture, Propaganda, Sword of War and Peace, and an Island.
And finally, Brando is playing his Sisay Weatherlight Captain 5-colour Legends deck. His goal is to use Sisay's ability to search his library for the exact cards he needs for any given situation, and to win the game by beating us down with high-powered creatures. Brando's starting hand is made up of Faebura Elder, Rankle Master of Pranks, Gerard Weatherlight Hero, Winota Joiner of Forces, Blood Crypt, Hallowed Fountain, and an Island.
DP is chosen to go first and begins the game by playing an Island. With nothing more to do, he passes to Martin.
I play Exotic Orchard, which Alex points out currently only taps for blue.
The best colour.
Not when you're playing an Abzan deck. Undeterred by Alex's comment, I pass the turn.
Doing his best to make Martin's Orchard as unhelpful as possible, Brando plays an Island and ends his turn.
Joining in on the Screw Martin over bandwagon, Alex also plays an Island and passes to DP. So mean.
DP casts Mist-Cloaked Herald and passes the turn without playing a second land.
Surely the man that wrote a book about how to play Commander wouldn't ignore his own advice and keep a one-land hand.
You know what, Martin, I think he might have done.
I play Grim Backwards and then cast Arcane Signet. With nothing else to do, I end my turn.
Brando plays Blood Crypt, having the Shockland enter tapped, and then passes to me.
Alex plays Choked Estuary, revealing a swamp from his hand to have it enter untapped. Next he casts Azorius Signet and passes the turn.
DP plays an Island that he totally didn't just top deck, and then moves to combat. Here he attacks me with his Merfolk, dealing me a staggering 1 damage, and then ends his turn.
In my turn I cast Kuranos, Hound of Athreos, and DP quickly counters the doggo with a sneaky Essence Capture.
Poor puppy.
DP puts a +1/+1 counter on his Herald with the counterspell's ability, and I pass to Brando.
Brando plays Temple Garden once again, having the Shockland enter tapped. With 2 mana open, he passes the turn.
Alex plays a Plains and casts Keeper of the Accord. Not the best card when 2 of us have already missed our land drops and there are only 2 creatures in play, but hey, maybe things will pick up soon. Out of mana, Alex ends his turn.
DP moves straight to combat, this time attacking Brando with his Mistcloaked Herald. Brando takes 2 and DP moves to his second main phase. Here he casts Sapphire Medallion and passes to Martin, missing yet another land drop.
I also fail to draw a 3rd land and cast Thorn-Wheeled Archer. With nothing more to do, I pass the turn. Kind of wishing I had a 3-headed dog right about now.
Brando plays Hallowed Fountain, having it enter tapped, as is tradition, and casts Feyburrow Elder. The Treefolk enters a 2/2 and Brando ends his turn. My Keeper's ability triggers given that Brando has more lands than I do, and I put a Plains into play tapped from my library before moving to my turn.
Alex plays a Swamp and casts Tivashazat, Doom of Fools. Oh, what the heck, I've just noticed the length of his tongue. So impractical.
And yet...
Anyway, Alex activates Sazat's +2 ability, creating 2 0/1 Black Thrall tokens, and then moves to combat. He attacks Brando with Keeper of the Accord, which Brando decides not to block, taking 3 damage. Satisfied of his turn, Alex passes to DP.
DP once again fails to draw a land and moves straight to combat. He attacks Martin with his unblockable Merfolk, dealing him 2 damage, and moves to his post-combat main phase. Here he casts Escape Artist using his medallion to make it cost 1 less, followed by Ether Figment, once again for half its usual cost. Happy with his current board state, DP passes the turn.
I also draw a non-land card, causing me to curse the laws of probability, and cast Swiftfoot Boots. I equip the shoes to my archer, and then end my turn.
Brando begins his turn by casting Yasharn Implaceable Earth, and searches the library for a basic forest and a basic plains. He puts both lands into his hand, plays a forest, and then moves to combat. Here he attacks my Tentacle Planeswalker with his Vigilant Treefolk, and I throw a Thrall under it to prevent the damage. Unable to cast anything else with his remaining mana, Brando passes to me.
Alex plays Drowned Catacombs and once again activates his Planeswalker's +2 ability. He creates another 2 Thrall tokens, and feeling that the rest of the table don't hate him enough already, casts Rhystic Study.
Good. Let the hate flow through you.
Not wanting to deprive himself of any blockers, Alex then passes the turn.
DP draws, curses deck for depriving him of land, and moves to combat. Martin suggests that DP attacks Tivashazat before I use his -10 ability to steal everybody's commanders, and DP sends his army of unblockable creatures at the long-tongued monstrosity.
I still can't get over that tongue, it's so creepy.
Tivash's loyalty is reduced by 4 and DP moves to his second main phase. Here he casts Propaganda in an attempt to deter any potential attacks against him, and I pop into shot to ask if he'd like to pay the 1 for my Rhystic Study.
My god, that is terrifying.
You're marrying me. Given that he is completely out of mana, I draw a card, and DP ends his turn.
I draw for turn, let out a deep sigh, and pass to Brando. Man, I wish I had more land.
Brando plays Training Center and taps his Treefolk to help cast Trostani Discordant. I once again make an appearance reminding Brando that I have a Rhystic Study in play, and Brando chooses not to pay the 1. I draw and Brando casts his commander, Sisay, Weatherlight Captain. I draw another card and Brando remembers to put 2 1/1 white soldier tokens with lifelink into play as per Trostani's ability.
Those tokens look awfully familiar.
Indeed they do. Moving to combat, Brando attacks Sazat with his Elemental Boar, and I block the little piggy with one of my Thralls. With nothing more to do, Brando ends his turn. Keeper of the Accord triggers, creating me a 1/1 soldier, and I then move to my turn.
Alex plays Caves of Kolios and casts Nevinyrral's Disc.
Flavor win!
I inform Alex that I am totally happy for him to wipe the board clean, and he activates his Axe+2 ability, creating 2 more thralls. Leaving a suspicious amount of mana open, Alex then passes to DP.
DP draws another non-land card and then moves to combat. Here he attacks my Walker with all of his creatures, lowering his loyalty to 2, and then passes the turn.
I also fail to draw a third land, leading me to question whether Alex has been tampering with my deck. I weep heavily, and then pass the turn.
Brando plays a Plains, making a really big deal about it, and casts Gerard, Weatherlight Hero. He pays the Heroic Study tax, taps Faber Elder for 3 mana, and casts his deck's secret weapon, Winota, Joiner of Forces. He once again pays 1 extra to prevent me from drawing, moves to combat, and attacks me with his soldiers, Yasharn, and Tristani. Winota's ability triggers 4 times, finding no humans from the first, second, or third triggers.
Oof, talk about unlucky.
On his 4th trigger, Brando puts Gianna Kudrow into play tapped and attacking me, and creates a 1/1 white human soldier token with her ETB. I block all the attackers with a single token each, and Brando ends his turn. I then make a soldier token in Brando's end step, and then move to my turn.
Alex misses his land drop, causing DP and myself to burst out laughing, and then activates Tavesh's Axe+2 ability. He creates 2 Thrall tokens, casts Sir Conrad the Grim, and passes to DP.
Everybody waits with bated breath as DP draws a turn, telling us all that it is not a land.
What the heck is going on this game?
Not to be deterred, DP attacks my Planeswalker with all of his unblockable creatures, reducing his loyalty to 0. The rest of the table cheer at his demise, and DP moves to his post-combat main phase. Here he casts his commander, Thassa, God of the Sea. The goddess enters as a 5/5 creature, given that DP's devotion to blue is now 5, and I draw a card with my study. Out of mana, DP passes the turn.
I draw a card and cheer as I reveal it to be a forest. I play the land and then propose a deal to Alex. I tell him that I will destroy Gerard if he blows up the disc before Brando's next turn, thus preventing the Weatherlight's former captain from recurring Brando's board. Alex agrees, and I tap out to cast Death Sprout, destroying Gerard and putting a much needed Plains into play tapped. Alex draws from his study, and Sir Conrad triggers, dealing everyone other than Alex 1 damage. With nothing left to do, I end my turn, and Alex upholds his end of the bargain by activating his disc. The board is completely wiped except for DP's now non-creature Thassa, and Sir Conrad triggers 17 times. DP, Brando and I take 17 damage, and Brando proceeds to his turn.
Brando plays Grim Climb Pathway, which he uses to help cast Rankle, Master of Pranks. Moving to combat, he attacks me with his Hasty Fairy, dealing me 3 damage. Rankle's ability triggers, and Brando chooses for all of us to discard a card, then draw a card, and lose a life. In his second main phase, Brando casts Linvala, Shield of the Sea Gate, and then passes to me.
Alex plays Sunken Hollow and casts Arcane Signet. Next he casts Priest of the Forgotten Gods, followed closely by Jace, Vryn's Prodigy. Pleased with his board state, he passes the turn.
DP scries 1 with Thassa, choosing to keep it on top of his library. He then draws the card, revealing it to be an island, and plays the land. Better late than never, I suppose. Making the most of his newfound mana, DP casts Quietus Spike, a dangerous card in a deck of unblockable creatures. Unable to do anything else right now, he ends his turn.
I play a Plains and cast Angel of Invention. I choose to create 2 1/1 colourless servo tokens with the Angel's Fabricate trigger, offering me a bit of protection from Alex's Priest's ability, and pass to Brando.
Brando plays Iganjo Castle, a card that I've never seen before, but I'm totally going to be grabbing a copy of for my own deck. Next, he casts on Sarah's Wings, targeting Rankle, giving him +1/+1, Vigilance, and Lifelink. Moving to combat, Brando once again attacks me with his Prank Master, dealing me 4 damage and gaining 4 life. He has everyone lose 1 life and draw a card with Rankle's ability, and moves to his post-combat main phase. Here he recasts Sisay and passes the turn.
Alex begins his turn by activating Jace's ability, drawing and discarding a card. This transforms Jace into Jace Telepath Unbound, and Alex activates his +1 ability targeting Rankle. Not yet finished, he casts Werq and then casts Demon's Disciple. I sacrifice a Thopter, Brando sacrifices Linvala, and Alex sacrifices Werq, triggering its ability. He returns Graveclaw to the battlefield given that it is the only legal target in his graveyard, and ends his turn.
DP scries the top card of his library to the bottom, draws, and plays Soldavi Excavations. He sacrifices an island to the Bizarre Lands ETB, and passes to Martin.
I begin my turn by casting my commander, Kathril Aspect Warper. Not liking the sound of this, DP casts Mana Drain, countering the Buggy Boy and making me very sad. Moving to combat, I enact my revenge, attacking DP with my Vigilant Angel. He takes 2 damage, I gain 2 life, and I then pass the turn.
Brando moves straight to combat, keeping his tradition of attacking me with his Flying Rogue. I take 2 damage given that Jace gave Rankle -2/-0, Brando gains 2 life, and everybody loses 1 life and draws a card. In his second main phase, Brando casts Saskia the Unyielding, and with the creature on the stack, I activate my Priest of the Forgotten Gods ability. I sacrifice my 2 other creatures, choosing Martin and Brando as targets for the Priest's ability, and Brando responds to this by activating Sisay's ability. He searches his library for Journey to Eternity, putting the aura onto the battlefield, enchanting Sisay, and the Priest's ability then resolves. Martin sacrifices his remaining servo, Brando sacrifices his commander, Sisay returns to the battlefield, and Journey to Eternity transforms into Atzal Cave of Eternity. Brando and Martin then lose 2 life, and I draw a card and add 2 black mana to my mana pool. Saskia then resolves, and Brando selects me as the target for Saskia's ability. Brando then ends his turn, and I respond by using my 2 floating mana to cast Mausoleum's Secrets. I search my library for Cruel Celebrant, put the vampire into my hand, and proceed to my turn.
Alex starts his turn by playing Vault of the Archangel, and then casts Karmic Guide. He uses the Ghost Angel's ability to return the Werq in his graveyard to the battlefield, and then sacrifices both of the aforementioned creatures to the Priest of the Forgotten Gods ability. Alex once again returns Graveclaw to the battlefield of Werq's ability, and Brando and I are chosen as the targets of the Priest's ability. We both lose 2 life, and I sacrifice Angel of Invention, and Brando sacrifices Rankle. Alex then draws a card, adds 2 black mana to his mana pool, and uses Jace's +1 ability to give Saskia -2/-0. Not yet finished, Alex finally casts his commander, Nevinyrral Urborg Tyrant. He creates 4 2/2 zombie tokens that enter tapped, and passes to DP.
DP scries the top card of his library to the bottom, draws, and adds 5 colorless mana to his mana pool with Mana Drain's effect. Next he plays an island, casts Sword of Light and Shadow, and then casts Sword of War and Peace. So many swords. Happy with his collection of pointy objects, DP passes the turn.
I play a Plains and then cast Jared's Orders. I search my library for Zetalpa, Primal Dawn, and Satyr Wanefinder, putting the Flappy Dino into my graveyard and the Goatman into my hand. Unable to cast a Satyr with my 2 remaining white mana, I end my turn.
Brando begins his turn by casting Farseek, putting a Zagoth Triome into play tapped in this way. Not wanting to lose any more of his creatures to Priest of the Forgotten Gods, Brando uses Cave of Eternity to return the Elish Norn Grand Cenobite in his graveyard to the battlefield. This lowers all of my zombie and my priest toughness to 0, leaving me with only my commander, and Brando then moves to combat. Here he attacks DP with Saskia and Martin with Sisay, and Martin responds to this by casting Swords to Plowshares, targeting the captain. Sisay is exiled, Brando gains 8 life, and DP takes 3 from Saskia. Really glad I lowered her power with Jace last turn. Given that I am Saskia's chosen one, I also take 3 damage, and with nothing else to do, Brando passes to me.
Alex plays Fetid Heath and activates Jace's -3 ability. He casts the Mausoleum Secrets in his graveyard with the ability, desperately searching his library for a way to deal with Brando's board state. After much deliberation, he puts Liliana, Dreadhorde General, into his hand, and then moves to combat. Here he attacks me with his commander, dealing me a measly 1 damage, and then moves to his second main phase. Alex casts the Liliana that he just tutored for, and DP responds to this by casting Broken Concentration. Really wanting his Necromancer to resolve, Alex counters the counterspell with Counter Squall, causing DP to lose 2 life in the process.
Serves him right for interfering with my plans.
Once Liliana has resolved, Alex activates her -4 ability, much to Brando's despair. All of the remaining creatures on the board are sacrificed, and Alex draws a card thanks to his Planeswalker's static ability. He decides not to destroy all of DP's equipment with Nevinyrral's Death Trigger, and with 1 mana remaining, passes the turn.
DP keeps the top card of his library where it is, draws it, and plays Mystic Sanctuary. He puts the mana drain from his graveyard on top of his library, and with nothing more to do, ends his turn.
I start my turn by casting Satyr Wayfinder, putting Temple of the False God into my hand with the creature's ability. I then play the land and tap all of my remaining mana to cast Sunblade Angel, a card with enough keywords to impress Atraxa.
And that's no small feat.
Unable to do anything else, I pass to Brando.
Brando begins his turn by casting Muldrotha the Gravetide, and then uses her ability to cast the Trostani Discordant in his graveyard. He makes 2 1/1 soldiers lifelink and passes the turn.
Alex plays Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, pleasing everybody at the table other than DP.
Sorry DP, nothing personal.
Next he casts Hostage Taker, exiling Muldrotha with the Pirate's ETB. Alex quickly casts the Elemental, granting him access to the cards in his graveyard, and casts the Priest of the Forgotten Gods that resides within there. Not yet finished, Alex activates Liliana's +1 ability, creating a 2/2 zombie, and then activates Jace's +1 ability, giving my angel -2/-0. Pleased with his new board state, Alex ends his turn.
DP scries, keeping the mana drain on top of his library where it is. He then draws the counterspell and passes to Martin.
I play Myriad Landscape and then cast Lyra Dawnbringer. I then move to combat, attacking Liliana with my Sunblade Angel and DP with my Wayfinder. The Necromancer takes 2 damage given that Lyra grants my Sunblade +1/+1, DP takes 1, and I gain 2 life from my Angel's lifelink. In my post-combat main phase, I cast Victimize, sacrificing Satyr Wayfinder to put the Zutulpa Primal Dawn and Koronos Hound of Athreos in my graveyard into play tapped.
But my Muldrotha!
Sucks to be you. Happy with the distress my doggo has caused, I pass the turn.
Brando draws, realises that he can no longer activate his KO return his ability, and casts Kambal, Console of Allocation.
Because we need more oppressive Orzhov cards on the board.
Next, he casts a super shiny Xenagos God of Revels, and moves to combat. Here, Brando gives Kamal +3/+3 and haste with the God's ability, and attacks Jace with a 6/7 creature. I block my zombie, and before damage occurs, I activate my Priest of the Forgotten God's ability. I sacrifice my Hostage Taker and the blocking zombie, selecting Martin and Brando as targets for the ability. Martin sacrifices Sunblade Angel and Brando sacrifices Soldier, and both of them lose 2 life. I then add 2 black mana to my mana pool and draw 3 cards thanks to the combined effects of the Priest and Liliana. Looking back, I should not have been able to do this given the fact that the Priest only entered the battlefield in my last turn.
Shame on you.
Thankfully though, this doesn't really make any impact in the way the game went. Blissfully unaware of my misplay, Brando ends his turn.
Alex plays Prairie Stream and then complains that I have completely ruined his deck's strategy. Sorry, not sorry. He then moves to combat, attacking me with his now next to useless Muldrotha, and I block the Swampy Lady with Lyra. Alex responds to this by activating his Vault of the Archangel, granting Muldrotha Death Touch and lifelink. My angel is destroyed, I gain 5 life, and Alex gains 6. In his second main phase, Alex casts a Rescus Explorer, putting 0 lands into his hand with the Kitty's ETB.
I just wanted another creature on board, okay?
Still not finished, Alex uses Liliana's +1 ability to create a zombie, and then Jace's +1 targeting my dinosaur. With nothing more to do, Alex moves to his end step, where he discards down to 7 and passes to DP.
DP scrolls the top card of his library to the bottom, draws, and casts Latch Seeker. Strange thing to be searching for, but hey, no judgment here. Satisfied with his play, DP then passes the turn.
I play a Plains and then recast my commander. The Nightmare Insect enters with Flying, Vigilance, Trample, Reach, Deathtouch, Menace, Lifelink, Double Strike, Indestructible, and 9 +1/+1 counters, causing the rest of the table to gasp in awe. Next I move to combat where I attack Liliana with my Pterodactyl, dealing her 4 damage. The Planeswalker's loyalty is reduced to 0, and I move to my second main phase. Here I cast Pestilent Spirit, and then end my turn.
Brando plays Fabled Passage, which he immediately sacrifices to put a swamp onto the battlefield from his library. Next he recasts Sisay, moves to combat, and targets his commander with Xenagos' ability. Brando then swings the 14/14 Captain at Jace, and before blocks activates her ability. He searches his library for Chromatic Ori, puts the artifact into play, and then taps it to activate Sisay's ability once more.
Now that is a spicy play if ever I've seen one.
This time Brando puts a Chroma's Memorial into play, granting his creature a plethora of keywords. I am now unable to block the Flying Captain, and so Jace takes 14 damage, lowering his loyalty to 0. Unable to perform any further shenanigans this turn, Brando passes to me. I respond to this by flashing in Dictative Erebos, deeply upsetting both Martin and Brando. I lose 2 life and Brando gains 2 life thanks to Cabal, and I then proceed to my turn.
Alex begins his turn by casting Phyrexian Altar, and Campbell drains him for 2 more life. Alex then sacrifices his Explorer to create a mana with the altar, triggering Dictative Erebos and causing the rest of us to sacrifice a creature. Alex repeats this process by sacrificing Muldrotha, forcing the rest of us to sacrifice another creature, and then sacrifices Priest of the Forgotten Gods. This causes the rest of us to sacrifice yet another creature, and Alex recasts his commander. Seeing where this is going, DP casts Mana Drain, but Alex counters the counterspell with Arcane Denial. Not ready to give up the fight just yet, DP casts Spell Snare, and with Alex lacking a response to this, the stack resolves. Nevinyrral is put back into the command zone, and Campbell drains Alex for 2 and DP for 4.
And I would have got away with it too, wasn't for you meddling patrons.
Drowning in a pit of despair, Alex passes the turn.
DP scries the top card of his library to the bottom, draws, and adds 6 colourless mana to his mana pool thanks to Mana Drain. He then uses mana to help cast an overloaded Cyclonic Rift, and I respond by sacrificing my zombie to Phyrexian Altar, forcing Martin and Brando to sacrifice their remaining creatures. DP then loses 2 life to Campbell, Brando gains 2 life, and the Rift resolves, returning everyone other than DP's non-land permanents to our hands. Happy that the rest of us are not happy, DP then ends his turn.
I play Evolving Wilds, which I then sacrifice to put a forest into play tapped. Next I cast my commander for a 3rd time, who once again enters with Flying, Vigilance, Trample, Reach, Deathtouch, Menace, Lifelink, Double Strike, Indestructible, and 9 +1/+1 counters.
If only he had haste.
I know, right? Unable to do anything else with my turn, I pass to Brando.
Brando starts his turn by activating his Cave of Eternity, returning Sisay to the battlefield this way. Next he pays 2 life to have Sacred Foundry enter the battlefield untapped, and use the last of his mana to cast a Chroma's Memorial.
Still not as many keywords as Kathril.
No dear, your commander is definitely wordier. Out of mana, Brando passes the turn.
Alex recasts Arcane Signet, and then spends a whopping 10 mana to cast his commander. Really not wanting Alex to have his commander out, DP counters the zombie wizard with Dismiss, drawing a card in the process. Alex cries heavily, just wanting to have his commander stick around for more than 5 seconds, and then ends his turn.
DP scries the top card of his library to the bottom, draws, and plays an island. He then passes to Martin without casting anything, leaving the rest of us to wonder how many counterspells he might have left in his hand.
In my turn I move straight to combat, attacking Alex with my oversized bug. He takes 24 damage, knocking him out of the game, and I gain 24 life thanks to Kathril's lifelink. In my post-combat main phase I cast a Chroma, Angel of Wrath, giving me a creature that can actually block Sisay, and pass the turn.
Brando recasts Chromatic Ori and then activates the Cave of Eternity to resurrect the Saskia in his graveyard. Brando selects Martin as the target of Saskia's ability, and with nothing more to do, ends his turn.
DP scries the top card of his library to the bottom, draws, and plays an island. Next he casts Bident of Thassa, which is a total flavour win in his deck, and passes to me. I respond to this by sacrificing my Myriad Landscape, searching my library for 2 swamps and putting them into play this way. With no further interruptions, I move to my turn.
Martin begins his turn by casting Commander's Sphere, tapping it to add a green to his mana pool, and sacrificing it to draw a card. Next he casts Glissa the Traitor, and moves to combat, where he attacks Brando with both of his keyword heavy flyers. Brando blocks Kathril with Saskia and Achroma with Sisay, and before damage, he activates Sisay's ability. He puts Venser's Shaper Savant into play, using the wizard's ability to return Kathril to Martin's hand, and combat damage then occurs. Achroma is destroyed by the now 7/7 Sisay, and Martin proceeds to his second main phase. Here he recasts his commander, to which DP responds by casting Thassa's Rebuff, yet another extremely flavourful card for him. Martin is unable to pay the 3 mana needed to prevent the counter spell, and puts his buggy boy back into the command zone. Not quite finished, he casts Sylvan Caryatid, and then ends his turn.
Brando starts his turn by using his Cave of Eternity to revive the Elish Norn in his graveyard, and then recasts Xenagos, God of Revels. Next he activates his commander's ability, searching his library for Glissa, Blade of Gold Knight, and puts the angel onto the battlefield. Moving to combat, Brando targets Glissa with Xenagos' ability, making her a 14/14 with haste. He then attacks DP with Venser and me with all of his other creatures, dealing us both lethal damage in one almighty swing.
Well, that's it for another game. I can't believe that DP and I were able to hold on for as long as we did when we missed so many land drops. But hey, it's just the way the game goes sometimes, especially if you keep a 1-land hand. Remember that you can help to support our channel in 4 quick and easy ways: liking this video, subscribing, hitting that bell icon, and leaving us a comment. I read every one. And if you really like our channel, then be sure to check out our Patreon page, where you can find exclusive rewards for as little as $1 a month. But until next time, stay safe out there.